Let's say you have a photo shoot coming up. You have everything planned, the location, the time, the model, but you still have one thing you haven't decided yet. That is what light you should bring. In terms of choice of the light modifier, we all know that the larger the light source, the softer the light will be. And soft light seems like the go-to look for portrait photography. So if that's the case, does that mean we should always pick big lights? Of course, that's not the case. There are so many small lights available and they do exist for a reason. Small lights can give you a unique look, and then sometimes they can give you a much better result. And in the meantime, sometimes small lights just not gonna work, and that's when you have to choose the big lights. So when to choose what light modifier based on the condition of each photo shoot can be not so straightforward. And the quality of the light is not the only deciding factor. Your location, the quality and the quantity of the ambient, all should be put into consideration when you choose your light modifier. So how exactly shall we choose the light modifier for each photo shoot? Don't worry, this video will give you an answer. To better understand the difference between large light and small lights, we need to go through some theory stuff. So let's introduce our model again, Sophie. Again, I want to give you some information about her. She's 12 inches tall. And then the light we're going to use today for the demonstration is one is a 10 inches octabox. So in the real world, it's relatively around 4 feet octa. And the other one, the small LED, is only 2 inches diameter. So in the real world, it will be around like a 24 inches beauty dish. So let's take a look at the lighting effect. So when you compare these two videos together, you can clearly see, okay, the large softbox can give you a much softer light, and then the small beauty dish give you a little bit somehow harsh light. So when we define the quality of the light, we always use like a soft light or harsh light. I think that's too general. We need to dig a little bit deeper. That helps us to better understand what's going on. So when we say soft light, so you can see this the light coming from this large softbox. Basically, what we see is less shadow. What I mean less shadow is like the area of the shadow is smaller and the shadow is brighter. The other thing is smoother transition between the light and shadow. Is basically the transition area between the light and shadow is wider. And then let's take a look at the hard light. The hard light will give you more shadow, means larger area for the shadow, and the shadow turn to be darker. And then narrower transition between the light and shadow. So you can see these two are they're totally opposite. Why is that? Why things are like that? With a large light source, because the size of the light is so large, so the light can hit your subject from a wider range of angle. So that's why there's a less area for the shadow, because there's more light hitting the shadow side. With a smaller light, of course, because it's such a narrow beam of light, it will leave more area for the shadow untouched. That's why you get darker, you get more shadow. But how about this transition between the light and shadow? Yeah, the size of the light modifier does play a role in there, but I think that's not the most important rule. I think the most important rule is actually something called inverse square law. So what I mean by that is like when you put a large light source to your subject, because the size is so large, you're gonna have one area of a softbox is closer to your subject, the other side which is further away from your subject. Because the softbox is so big, the difference of the distance is quite big. And then we all know that the closer the light source to your subject, the more intense the light will be. So we would think, okay, the light on our light softbox is even, so the light on your subject will be even. Actually, that's not the case because they're at a different distance. For that particular reason, the lighting that hit your subject is actually a gradient of light from the brightest to the darkest. This thing helps to create that smooth transition between the light and shadow. And you can easily tell this effect will be much less obvious on a smaller light source. That's why the transition is not near as smooth when they compare with a large light source. Of course, to make this thing more obvious, two things gotta happen. You need to put your light to your subject close enough. I say close enough, not too close. The second thing is the light need to be a little bit pointing away. It's kind of like when people talking about fairing the light. Yeah, same idea. Now we understand the why behind all this. Now let's take a look at how these lights perform under different situations. So first, let's take a look at the studio shoot. So when I talk about studio shoot, I want to clarify. I mean, there's absolutely zero ambient. Either there's just like no ambient light in, or you just set up your camera so it kills all the ambience. When you're doing that way, you basically have control of all the lights, like it's a key light or fill light or kicker light. When you're shooting like this, large softbox, large light source usually will make it easier for you because the size of the light is too big, and also because that gradient effect, which I just explained, will help you to make this one light work as multiple functions. It's very easy to use a one large softbox work both as a key light and fill light. And apparently this is something very hard to do with a smaller light. Most of the time you really cannot just shoot with a one smaller softbox in studio with no ambient, unless that's the dramatic look you want to go for. So usually if you want to shoot with a smaller light, you need more than one light sources. So there's a pros and cons. Like like you need more light source. Seems like that's something not ideal, but actually it creates a different look because smaller light have a different character. The smaller light is very good at showing texture, like skin texture, and it's very good at showing the specular highlight. It's something very important to create a 3D look because it gives you an actual level of tuning other than just the light and shadow. It gives you highlight, mid-tone, and shadow. Which one to choose will be totally depends on the nature of your photo shoot. And the large softbox has other than this one light serve as a multiple function, it has another benefit is that the light is more forgiving. For example, if you do some shots the model probably gonna walk around, jumping around, turning here and there, and then with large softbox, it's just much easier to do that. Like you can just keep shooting without changing the position of the light too much. With a smaller light, because it's such a narrow beam of light, so your light needs to be more accurate. Every time they turn or they move around, you have to adjust your light accordingly. So which light modifier you should pick for a studio shoot? Well, that would depend on the photo shoot. But if you've been following along, I believe it's much easier for you to choose the right one now. Next, shooting on location. Shooting on outdoor location will be very different from shooting in studio. In my previous video, I mentioned that before, so you cannot move your favorite studio setup outdoor and expect to get the same result. It's just simply not gonna happen. The reason is simple, because now we have an ambient light joining the game. And once the ambient light joins us, we have to do something differently. You cannot kill it, because if you kill all the ambient light, there's no point shooting outdoor. You might just shoot in the studio. And you cannot ignore it. The ambient light have to function something, like for example, either a fill light or key light or rim light or maybe two of these functions. So you have to let them do what they do and then don't mess up with it. For example, if the ambient lights work as a fill light, and you're gonna make sure you're not gonna add any more fill light because otherwise you're gonna kill too much shadow and then the photo gonna look flashy. That means you're gonna make sure your light only gonna work on the part that is needed, not gonna cover unnecessary area because they're only gonna make the image worse. Actually, the large light gonna work against you because the light source is so large. It's very easy for them to cover both the key light and part of the fill light, and then end up gonna give you a flashy look. The small light gonna work much better because it covers a smaller area. It's very easy for you to pinpoint only in the area that is needed and let the ambient light do the rest. At this point, someone may ask, you mentioned that the small light is not gonna give the smooth transition between the light and shadow as the large light. So what are you gonna do about that? Okay, let me explain. So when we're shooting on location, we're gonna make sure the light on our subject somehow match the light on the background. It doesn't have to be exact, but they should look closer, similar enough. So for example, if you're shooting on a sunny day, so the light on the background is gonna come from the sun, and the sun is a point light source. So the light gonna be somehow harsh. So if the light on your subject is too smooth, actually gonna create this unnatural look. A good example will be, you might have seen some behind the scene videos. They do photo shoot at say in the desert or somewhere like on a sunny day. So what they did is that they used this large diffusing panel to diffuse the light fall on the model. And then you can see the lighting on the model is very soft, but the lighting on the background is very, very harsh. For me, that's a very unnatural look. I'm normally not gonna shoot it that way. On the other side, if you're shooting in overcasting day, the light falling on the background going to be very soft because it's coming from this diffused sky. If you use a small light source, you might worry, okay, the light transition going to be between the light and shadow going to be harder, so it probably not going to match the background. You might think that's a problem. Actually, it won't be a problem if you properly blend in your ambient together with your strobe light. Think about this, your strobe light working as a key light, the ambient gonna work as a fill light. If you blend in them properly, the fill light gonna help you to smooth this transition between the highlight and shadow. It's almost like a drawing. You draw the highlight and you draw the shadow and you smudge the area between them, help to build this smooth transition. Of course, you need to set up your lighting, your camera the right way to get that result, but it's absolutely doable. That you still get the lighting result from the strobe light and then match the lighting of your subject with the background. Due to this reason, I almost exclusively shooting with small light when I'm working outdoor. Of course, there's an exception. That one exception will be when you're shooting with a very low ambient and shooting outdoors, like you shoot after dark. Then so you still have certain level of ambient, but it's very minimal. That's when you'll need a little bit more coverage on the fill light as well. That's when the large light source will make your life easier. Let's move on to the next scenario. That's when you're shooting indoor. So when you're shooting indoor, there are two typical situations. One situation will be you have a lot of ambient, for example, a lot of ambient light coming from the window. The other situation will be there won't be many ambient light at all. Basically just a little indoor light here and there, the lamp, the ceiling light, things like that. For these two different situations, we need to treat them differently. So when you have a loss of ambient light coming from the window, it's sort of kind of like a shooting outdoor. So you just use a small light, just work on the particular area, particular function that you need it. But when you're shooting with a very low dark ambient, then you're back to the situation just like shooting in the studio. You either use a large light source, work as both a key light and fill light, or you use a smaller light, but you have to use multiple light sources. So far, we've been talking about choosing the right modifier only based on the quality of the light, but there's some other things that we need to take into consideration. One thing will be how much light will be needed. Think of light just like water, and then your softbox just like a shower head. So if you have one large shower head and one small shower head, and then you're taking a shower, you want to have the same amount of water fall on you within the same amount of time. Apparently, the large shower head going to consume a lot more water. Exactly the same idea for light. Large softbox going to take a lot more light than the small one. It's very easy to do some calculation to get exactly how many stop more you're going to need, but just give you an idea, for a 1x3 strip box, if you want to get the same brightness with, let's say, a 5 feet octa, you easily need another 3 stops of light to make sure the brightness is the same level. So what that means is if you're shooting outdoor and then you're competing with the ambient and then you have a 250 watt light with a 1x3 softbox, you're shooting at the maximum level. If you change that softbox to a 5 feet octa, you're gonna need 3 stops more of light. That's kind of 500, 1000, you're gonna need 2000 watt light. So that's a lot more power that will be needed, and 2000 watt light gonna be super heavy, super big, super expensive. That's definitely something you need to put into consideration. The second thing will be the light spill. The light spill is basically the light hitting the area that you don't want to hit. For example, you're taking a picture of your subject. You want the light only following your subject, but sometimes the light could accidentally hit the background, create this pocket light effect, and the people can tell obviously the artificial light is being used. It's not a very natural look. So you always trying to avoid the light spill. Make sure the light only get to the area that needed. For this, it's very easy to do with a smaller light because smaller light has a narrow light beam, but large light gonna bring you a lot of problem if you're shooting in the small space. So there are some solutions. For example, you can use a grid to narrow down a little bit. Sometimes if that's still not enough, you have to use a flag. So that means you need extra stuff to carry, especially for flag, you're gonna need an actual light stand or someone hold it for you. So for that particular reason, small light will be much easier. So that's pretty much we went through all the things that I think that are important when you're choosing the right light modifier. But I know there's one question that I haven't answered and someone gonna ask that question. And that is somebody gonna say, hey Kyle, I know that the size of the light modifier is relative. You can make a small light appears larger if you put the light closer to your subject, and then you can get like a similar lighting effect as a large light modifier. Is that right? Absolutely right. But there's some big problem with this. The first problem is very obvious. Like if you put your light too close to your subject and then you're shooting with a wider lens, like a 15 mil, 35 mil, or 24 mil, like at least the range I use most of the time, the light gonna show in your frame. So that's a problem. Somebody said, you know what, I'll do this. I'll put the light on the tripod, I'll take a shot with the light, and then I'll take out the light stand, take another shot, and then Photoshop it. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. But that doesn't mean that you won't have a problem. You will have another problem because your light is too close to your subject, and then you're trying to create this large light effect with a smaller light. So you move the smaller light very close to your subject. The light only gonna hit her face, maybe just like a shoulder up or waist up. So what happens is you got just a huge light fall off below her waist, and then even if you do the Photoshop, you make everything look perfect, and people can easily see the light fall off, and then can easily tell the artificial light is used because it's a very unnatural look. So it's not gonna help you anyway. So what I'm trying to say is, when it's time to use the large light, just use the large light. Choosing modifier for your photo shoot is like everything else about photography. There's no such thing called one fits for all. You always need to choose your modifier based on the nature of your photo shoot. And sometimes it cannot be so straightforward. But I hope after this video, it'll be a lot easier for you to pick the right one. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.